Passing the Salesforce admin exam has opened a whole new world for many professionals, including myself. If you are hoping to pass the Salesforce admin exam, you are in the right place. In about 20 seconds, I'm going to begin sharing my advice on how to approach this certification exam to place yourself in the position to pass. If you stick around until the end, you will receive my best exam tip on how to pass in a maximum of 2 attempts. I currently have 10 Salesforce certifications, and while I have passed most of them on the first attempt, I have never taken more than 2 attempts because of what I will share with you. So stick around. Okay, let's get into it. The first step to passing the exam is no surprise. You actually have to study. You do have to put in some work. I will tell you where to focus your attention in a second, but know that if you don't put in the work, you won't actually be good at your Salesforce admin job if you happen to land one. Don't put yourself in that position. Take this seriously and do your best to understand the content on this exam. For each one of the certification exams I have passed, I've completed the trailhead trails recommended by Salesforce for that certification, or at least a majority of the trails that they recommended. This is the best place to start your studying. The next level of studying would be to read through the Salesforce documentation. You can simply Google terms or tools and concepts and add the keyword Salesforce to that search, and you will likely find the documentation at the top. Read through a few pages of the documentation for at least a dozen terms and tools that will be on the exam, because I have found that the exam questions often seem to stem straight from the documentation. Each of these steps really have to do with studying, but in different forms. The next step is to get access to a free developer edition org, so that you can practice configuring all of the things you've learned in your studying. Because if you get those paths of how to do things worked out in your head as you look around and click on things, you kind of develop that muscle memory, and you'll have a deeper experience to call upon for the exam and will likely walk into the exam with more confidence, which will help a lot. The next step is to take some practice tests before you take the actual exam. You should 100% take the practice test that Salesforce offers for free. You can take it multiple times to get a feel for how the exam will work, and you should get different questions each time. My advice here would be to take a different practice exam first to help you gauge which topics you need to go study a little bit more, and then take the practice test that Salesforce offers after that, with the goal of getting acquainted with how Salesforce asks questions on the exam. I'll link to both the Salesforce practice tests and my own practice tests down in the description. The fourth step is to leverage a study guide or notes from someone else who has studied for and passed the exam. If you have a colleague or a friend who passed the exam, ask them if they have any study notes or search LinkedIn for people posting their notes. Just make sure you avoid anyone who would ever purport to have actual exam questions or answers. Going into the exam with a solid working definition of all of the terms, understanding the purposes of the different tools, and understanding the certain limitations of certain tools will put you in a better position to pass. The fifth step, if you feel like you need just a little bit more to get the edge over the exam, is to join a study group. You can join others studying for the exam and gain some extra insights along with the camaraderie and encouragement of studying with others. Alternatively, you can watch study session videos here on YouTube. I will link to a playlist above where you can watch study sessions I led some students through. The reason I think this will help you is because it helps to hear things explained multiple ways before it starts to make sense sometimes. And it can often help to learn to teach. If you are in a study group and have to explain what you learned over the past week, you are going to go about your studying in a way that requires more depth. This is great because the exam is tricky and not one-dimensional. You really need to understand how tools will be used in a variety of scenarios. The final step is to schedule the exam. If you don't schedule it, you will never pass it. I even recommend scheduling the exam before you feel ready. This will put pressure on you and push you to study with more determination. Schedule it a few weeks or a month out, depending upon your readiness, and then make a study plan. If your current employer will not cover the exam fee, there are ways you can potentially earn an exam voucher. I have a video dedicated to that, which I'll put on the screen for you to watch next if you are interested. But before that, my final tip. While you take your exam, write down any of the topics, terms, or concepts that you are most thrown off by. If you are taking the exam in person, you should have been given a scrap piece of paper. If you are taking the exam online, you will have a little text area to write in on the side of the screen. Either way, write down these things that give you the most trouble, or that you have never heard of, or that you are not confident in. Only write down the term or a couple keywords, not a whole sentence, not the question. As you go along, you will probably collect at least 5 to 10 things. If you end up having more than this, try to consolidate your list down, prioritizing the ones that appeared in multiple questions. Then, before you submit the exam, memorize this list the best you can. Then, you can quickly rewrite down the things that you need to study. You have a list of things you can spend some focused time on, rather than feeling overwhelmed about studying every exam topic over again. Most people, if they are able to pick up another 5 to 10 correct answers by focused study, will pass on their next attempt. Alright, please like and subscribe. That helps me to continue making these videos, and here's the video I promised. Thanks for spending some time with me.